Hello, my good friends. How are you today? May God bless you all. I will not introduce anything. You guys watch the video and feel it, then let's evaluate together. The Grand Peachtree Hotel stood like a crown jewel in the heart of Atlanta, its glass facade catching the glow of 1,000 city lights. Inside, the ballroom was a vision of opulence. Crystal chandeliers cast golden sparkles across marble floors. Orchids spilled from gilded vases, and the hum of Georgia's elite filled the air with clinking champagne flutes and practiced laughter. The gala, hosted by Vanessa Reed, was the event of the season, a showcase of wealth and power where Atlanta's who's who mingled in tailored tuxedos and shimmering gowns. But for Maya Jackson, the glitter was a facade, a stage for a reckoning years in the making. Maya stood at the edge of the ballroom, her deep black gown hugging her curves, its sleek fabric catching the light like a blade. Her coiled hair, swept into an elegant updo, framed a face both fierce and composed, her dark brown eyes burning with purpose. At 32, she was a vision of strength, her rich brown skin glowing under the chandeliers, but beneath her poise lay a storm of pain and resolve. 5 years ago, she'd been a rising star at Jackson Properties, her father David's real estate empire, poised to take the helm. Then Vanessa Reed, her father's trusted partner and Ethan Caldwell's fiancée, betrayed them. Vanessa framed David for fraud, tanked the company, and drove him to an early grave with a slow poison disguised as tea. Maya's mother, a schoolteacher, died of heartbreak soon after. Left with nothing, Maya vanished into Atlanta's shadows, scraping by as a barista at Soul Brew in Old Fourth Ward, all while gathering the evidence to bury Vanessa. Tonight, that evidence was in her clutch, a USB drive loaded with emails, bank records, and a chilling voice recording of Vanessa plotting David's downfall. Maya's heart pounded as she scanned the crowd, her fingers tightening around a champagne flute she hadn't touched. Vanessa stood across the room, radiant in a silver gown, her blonde hair swept up, her smile as sharp as a knife. She was the queen of this world, but Maya was here to topple her crown, and Ethan Caldwell, the tech mogul who'd brought her here, stood by her side, his presence both a comfort and a complication. Ethan, 35, was a study in contrasts, his black tuxedo sharp, his dark hair neat, but his green eyes carried a restless edge. He'd built a billion-dollar app empire from a garage, but the scar of Vanessa's betrayal lingered. When he'd received her wedding invitation, he'd vowed to show up with someone who'd make her question everything. That someone was Maya, a woman he'd met by chance at Soul Brew, whose wit and fire had hooked him from the start. Now, as they stood in the ballroom, his hand brushed hers, a silent question in his glance. "You ready for this?" he murmured, his voice low, laced with cedar cologne. Maya's lips curved, a spark of defiance in her eyes. "Born ready, Caldwell. You just keep up." Her voice was steady, but her pulse raced. She wasn't just here for Vanessa. She was here for her father, for the life stolen from her, for the chance to stand tall again. The lights dimmed, and Vanessa took the stage, her voice smooth as she welcomed the crowd. "Tonight," she said, "we celebrate Atlanta's future, innovation, power, and unity." The applause was thunderous, but Maya's gaze locked onto her, unyielding. Vanessa's eyes flickered to her, a flash of unease breaking her polish. She knew Maya was no ordinary guest, not after their tense exchange at her wedding in Savannah a week ago. Maya had planted the seed then, and tonight she'd reap the harvest. Maya nodded to Marcus, a young tech assistant she'd befriended at Soul Brew, who stood by the AV booth. He gave a subtle thumbs up, ready to project her evidence. As Vanessa raised her glass for a toast, Maya stepped forward, her heels clicking on the marble. The crowd parted, whispers rippling as she climbed the stage, snatching a microphone from a stunned waiter. Ethan followed, his presence a quiet strength at her back. "Ladies and gentlemen," Maya said, her voice clear, cutting through the room like a blade. "I'm Maya Jackson, and I have a story to tell." The crowd stilled, faces turning, phones poised to record. Vanessa's smile froze, her champagne flute trembling. 5 years ago, Vanessa Reed destroyed my family. She framed my father, David Jackson, for fraud, stole his company, and poisoned him to death. She thought she'd buried the truth, but tonight it rises. The screen behind her flickered, and gasps erupted as an email appeared. Vanessa to a shadowy contact dated weeks before David's death. "The poison's slow," it read. "Jackson's out. The company's ours." Another slide followed, bank transfers to offshore accounts, funneling millions through fake deals. Then the final blow, a recording of Vanessa's voice, cold and calculated. "David's too trusting. He'll never see it coming." The ballroom exploded in murmurs, heads swiveling to Vanessa, her face drained of color, her voice shrill. "This is a lie. She's nobody, a desperate fraud." She lunged for the microphone, but Ethan stepped between them, his eyes hard. "Sit down, Vanessa," he said, his tone like steel. "You're done." Vanessa's eyes darted, wild with panic. "You can't do this, Maya!" "You're nothing, a nobody from nowhere." Her words dripped with venom, but Maya stood taller, her voice unwavering. "I'm the truth you can't bury," she said, her gaze piercing. "You took my father, my home, my life, but you don't get to take my voice." The crowd was a sea of shocked faces, cameras flashing, whispers spreading like wildfire. Police officers entered, led by a prosecutor Maya had contacted through Malik Jones, her childhood friend and a reporter in Harlem. Vanessa screamed, "You'll pay for this!" as handcuffs clicked around her wrists. Owen Tate, her groom, stood frozen, his face a mask of betrayal. The elite of Atlanta watched, their polished world cracking open. Maya's victory was electric, but as Vanessa was led away, her glare burned into Maya, a promise of vengeance. Maya's knees trembled, her breath shallow. She'd won, but at what cost? Her eyes found Ethan's, his hand still gripping hers, his face a mix of pride and worry. Tears spilled down her cheeks, the weight of her father's memory crashing over her. She saw him in her mind, his warm laugh, his chessboard lessons in their Harlem brownstone, his belief that she could do anything. This was for him, but the emptiness lingered. Ethan pulled her close, his voice soft. "You did it, Maya. You're free." She shook her head, her voice breaking. "Not yet. Not until I know you're with me." Her words were a challenge, a plea. She'd bared her soul tonight. But Ethan was still a puzzle. His past with Vanessa, his secrets, his world so far from hers. Could she trust him? Or was this just another game? The crowd buzzed, phones capturing the scandal, but Maya's world narrowed to Ethan's eyes, searching for truth. She'd torn down an empire, but her heart was on the line, and the battle was far from over. 1 week earlier. The Soul Brew coffee shop in Old Fourth Ward was a slice of Atlanta's soul. Its walls painted with murals of jazz legends, the air thick with the scent of cornbread and roasted beans. A Billie Holiday record spun softly from a corner speaker, her voice weaving through the chatter of locals sipping lattes. Maya Jackson moved behind the counter, her apron stained, her coiled hair tamed into a loose bun. Her dark brown eyes flicked to the clock. Another hour until her shift ended, another night of digging through Vanessa's digital trail. She was wiping down the espresso machine when the door chimed, and Ethan Caldwell walked in. He was all sharp lines, tailored blazer, dark hair, green eyes that seemed to see too much. He looked out of place among the mismatched chairs and vinyl records, but his easy smile softened the edge. He ordered a black coffee, but as Maya handed it over, Her elbow bumped the cup, splashing dark liquid across his crisp white shirt. "Damn," she muttered, grabbing a rag. "Sorry, suit guy. Guess I owe you a new shirt." Ethan chuckled, unbuttoning his blazer to assess the damage. "Call it even if you tell me your name." She raised an eyebrow, her lips twitching. "Maya. And you're—" "Ethan," he said, his gaze holding hers a beat too long. "You always this good with first impressions?" "Only when I'm feeling generous," she shot back, tossing him the rag. The air crackled, his cologne, cedar and a hint of citrus, mixing with the coffee's warmth. Maya felt a spark, but she pushed it down. Guys like him didn't linger in places like this. He leaned on the counter, his voice low. "I've got a proposition, Maya. I need a date for a wedding this weekend. High profile, lots of eyes. You in?" She laughed, sharp and skeptical. "You're picking up baristas for black tie events now? What's the catch?" "No catch," he said, his smile disarming. "I need someone who can hold their own. You look like you can. Pays well, too." Maya studied him, her mind racing. She'd heard of Ethan Caldwell, the tech mogul who dated Vanessa Reed before she ditched him for Owen Tate. This wasn't just a date. It was a chance to get close to Vanessa, to dig deeper into her lies. Her father's face flashed in her mind, his voice urging her to fight. "What's the wedding?" she asked, her tone casual but her eyes sharp. "My ex's," Ethan said, his jaw tightening. "Vanessa Reed. I want to show her I've moved on. You game?" Maya's heart skipped. Vanessa, the woman who'd destroyed her family. This was no coincidence. It was fate. She leaned closer, her voice teasing. "You're paying for the dress, right?" He grinned, relief in his eyes. "Deal. Be ready Saturday." As he left, Maya watched him go, her pulse racing. She didn't trust Ethan, not yet, but he was her ticket to Vanessa. She pulled out her phone, texting Malik. "Got a lead. Wedding in Savannah. Vanessa's gonna be there." His reply was instant. "Be careful, Maya. You're playing with sharks." Back in her Vine City apartment, Maya stood before a cracked mirror, her walls covered with poems and faded photos of her parents. She touched a picture of her father, his smile wide, and whispered, "This is for you, Dad." Vanessa had taken everything, but Maya was taking it back, one truth at a time. The night of the gala faded into memory as Maya stepped out onto Peachtree Street, the Atlanta skyline stretching before her. Ethan followed, his hand brushing hers. "Where to now?" he asked, his voice soft. She looked at him, her heart a tangle of hope and fear. "Home," she said, her voice steady. "But we're not done yet." The city hummed around them, its lights a promise of battles to come. Maya had torn down Vanessa's empire, but her fight, for justice, for love, for herself, was just beginning. Hey, you're loving Maya's epic takedown, right? Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. What's Ethan hiding, and will Maya trust him? Let's unravel this together. The air in Atlanta's old Fourth Ward carried the hum of summer, a blend of grilled peaches from street vendors and the faint strum of a busker's guitar. Inside Soul Brew coffee shop, Maya Jackson wiped down the counter, her apron dusted with coffee grounds, her mind a tangle of nerves and resolve. The memory of Ethan Caldwell's offer lingered like a spark. His green eyes, his easy grin, his invitation to crash Vanessa Reed's wedding in Savannah. It wasn't just a date. It was a chance to get close to the woman who'd destroyed her family. Maya's fingers tightened around a rag, her dark brown eyes flicking to a photo of her father, David Jackson, tucked behind the register. She'd do this for him, no matter the cost. The shop was quiet, save for the soft croon of Ella Fitzgerald from the speakers and the clink of mugs. Maya's coiled hair was pulled into a loose bun, her rich brown skin catching the morning light through the window. At 32, she carried a quiet strength, but the weight of 5 years, losing her father to Vanessa's poison, her mother to grief, and her future to betrayal, pressed hard. She'd survived by blending into Atlanta's shadows, serving coffee by day, and hacking Vanessa's digital trail by night. Now, Ethan's proposition had opened a door, and she was ready to step through, even if it meant dancing with danger. The door chimed and Ethan walked in, his tailored blazer swapped for a crisp polo, his dark hair slightly mussed. He looked less like a tech mogul and more like a guy who'd wandered in for a latte, but his presence still shifted the air. Maya's pulse quickened, her guard up despite the warmth in his smile. "Back for more coffee disasters?" she teased, leaning on the counter. He chuckled, sliding onto a stool. "Figured I'd check if you're still in for Saturday. Savannah's a long drive." She raised an eyebrow, pouring him a black coffee. "You think I'm bailing? I said I'm in, Caldwell. What's the plan?" Ethan's eyes held hers, a flicker of curiosity in their green depths. "We leave tomorrow. I've got a salon lined up in Buckhead to get you ready. Dress, hair, the works. You good with that?" Maya's lips twitched. "You're footing the bill, right?" "Every penny," he said, his grin widening. "But you gotta play the part. Smile, charm, make Vanessa wish she'd never let me go." Maya's stomach twisted. Vanessa. The name alone was a knife, but she kept her voice light. "Sounds like you're still hung up on her." His grin faded, his jaw tightening. "Not even close. She left me for Owen Tate, said I wasn't husband material. I just want her to see I'm doing fine without her." Maya nodded, filing away his bitterness. He was driven by ego, maybe pain, but she didn't care. This was her shot to dig into Vanessa's world, to find the evidence she needed to bury her. "Deal," she said, sliding the coffee over. "But don't expect me to fawn over you, suit guy." Ethan laughed, a low, warm sound that sent a shiver down her spine. "Wouldn't dream of it, Maya." He stood, leaving a 20 on the counter. "See you tomorrow. Don't spill anything on me." As he left, Maya watched the door swing shut, her heart racing. She didn't trust Ethan, not his charm, not his money, not the way his eyes lingered, but she trusted her own fire, the one that had kept her fighting since Vanessa took everything. She pulled out her phone, texting Malik Jones, her childhood friend and a reporter with a nose for truth. "Heading to Savannah for Vanessa's wedding. Need you to dig into Owen Tate." Malik's reply was quick. "You're playing a dangerous game, Maya. Watch your back." The next morning, Ethan's sleek black SUV pulled up outside Soul Brew, its tinted windows reflecting the vibrant murals of Old Fourth Ward. Maya stepped out, her jeans and tank top a far cry from the glamour Ethan promised. She slid into the passenger seat, the leather cool against her skin, and caught his glance. "What, no red carpet?" she quipped, buckling in. He smirked, pulling into traffic. "Patience, Jackson. You'll be a queen by tonight." The drive to Buckhead was smooth, Atlanta's skyline giving way to tree-lined streets and upscale boutiques. At a high-end salon, stylists swarmed Maya, their hands deft as they tamed her curls into glossy waves and brushed subtle makeup across her face. She sat in a plush chair, watching her reflection transform, her nerves buzzing. The emerald gown Ethan had chosen clung to her like a second skin, its deep green setting off her brown skin like a jewel. When she stepped out, Ethan froze, his coffee cup pausing midair. "Damn," he said, his voice low. "You're gonna steal the show, Maya." She tilted her head, a playful glint in her eyes. "That's the plan, Caldwell. You ready to keep up?" His laugh was soft, but his gaze lingered, a heat in it that made her breath catch. She turned away, her cheeks warm, reminding herself this was business, not pleasure. But the spark between them was undeniable, a current she couldn't ignore. The wedding was in Savannah, a 4-hour drive south, and they arrived at a sprawling coastal estate as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in pinks and golds. The lawn was a sea of white roses and twinkling lanterns, guests in designer gowns and tuxedos sipping cocktails. Maya's heart pounded as she stepped out of the car, Ethan's hand steady on her arm. Heads turned, whispers following them as they walked the red carpet. She felt the weight of their stares. Atlanta's elite, judging her, a black woman from Vine City in their gilded world. Vanessa stood at the center of it all, her white gown shimmering, her blonde hair swept up. Her smile was perfect, but when she saw Ethan with Maya, it faltered. Owen Tate, her groom, a stocky man with a politician's charm, stood beside her, oblivious to the tension. Vanessa's eyes narrowed as Ethan approached, Maya at his side. "Ethan," Vanessa said, her voice honeyed but sharp. "Didn't expect you to show." "Wouldn't miss it," he replied, his tone cool. "This is Maya Jackson." Maya extended a hand, her smile deliberate. "Congrats, Vanessa. Hope it's worth it." Her words carried a barb, and Vanessa's grip stiffened, her green eyes searching Maya's face. "Do we know each other?" Vanessa asked, her tone tight. "Not yet," Maya said, her voice smooth. "But we will." Owen cleared his throat, raising a glass. "To love," he said, breaking the moment. The crowd echoed the toast, but Vanessa's gaze lingered on Maya, a flicker of unease in her eyes. Maya felt a thrill. She'd rattled her, planted a seed of doubt. On the dance floor, Ethan pulled Maya close, his hand warm on her lower back. The orchestra played a slow waltz, and their bodies moved in sync, the world fading to just them. His breath grazed her ear, sending a shiver down her spine. "You're trouble, Maya," he murmured, his voice husky. "You have no idea," she replied, her lips brushing his jaw as she leaned in. The air crackled, their closeness electric, but Maya's heart raced for another reason. She was here for Vanessa, not for Ethan's charm. Yet his touch made her falter, a pull she hadn't expected. The moment broke when Maya spotted a door leading to a private wing of the estate. She excused herself, slipping away while Ethan chatted with guests. The hallway was dim, lined with framed photos of the Tate family. Her breath caught when she saw one. A picture of her father, David, shaking hands with Vanessa at a gala years ago. It was tucked away, a trophy of her betrayal. Maya's knees buckled and she sank to the floor, clutching the frame. Tears spilled over, her father's smile burning in her mind, his chess games, his pride in her, his last words. "You're my legacy, Maya." She pressed the photo to her chest, sobs shaking her. The music from the ballroom drifted in, a cruel contrast to her pain. Vanessa had taken him, displayed his defeat like a prize. Maya's grief turned to fire, her resolve hardening. She'd make Vanessa pay, no matter what it took. Back in the ballroom, Maya rejoined Ethan, her eyes red, but her posture fierce. He frowned, touching her arm. "You okay?" "Fine," she lied, her voice tight. "Just needed air." He studied her, unconvinced, but didn't push. As they left the estate, the Savannah night cool against her skin, Maya's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Back off, or you'll regret it." Her blood ran cold. Vanessa knew she was digging, and the game had just gotten deadlier. The drive back to Atlanta was quiet, Ethan's hand resting on the console, inches from hers. She wanted to trust him, to tell him about the photo, the text, but doubt gnawed at her. He'd loved Vanessa once. How much did he really know? At a gas station stop, she hacked into Vanessa's email from her phone, her fingers trembling. One message caught her eye. A recent transfer to a foreign account linked to a deal David had opposed. Vanessa was still profiting from his death. Maya glanced at Ethan, pumping gas under the fluorescent lights. He caught her eye, his smile soft, and her heart twisted. "You're staring," he called, teasing. "Checking if you're worth the trouble," she shot back, forcing a grin. But her mind was elsewhere. Vanessa was closing in, and Ethan was a wild card. She needed answers, and she needed them fast. Back in her Vine City apartment, Maya sat at her desk, the photo of her father beside her laptop. The city's hum filtered through her window, a reminder of the fight ahead. She texted Malik. "Found something big. Vanessa's still dirty. Dig into her accounts." His reply was instant. "On it." "But Ethan, how much does he know?" Maya didn't answer. She stood, pacing, her reflection faint in the window. Atlanta's lights stretched before her, a city of dreams and shadows. She whispered to herself, her voice steel. "I'm coming for you, Vanessa." Tomorrow she'd push Ethan for the truth, even if it meant risking her heart. The wedding had been a spark, but the fire was just beginning. The Atlanta skyline shimmered under a hazy summer dusk, its glass towers catching the last rays of sunlight. In Midtown, Ethan Caldwell's office was a sleek fortress of steel and glass, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city like a living canvas. Inside, Maya Jackson sat at a conference table, her laptop glowing with Vanessa Reed's hacked emails, her dark brown eyes sharp with focus. Her coiled hair was pulled into a high bun, her simple black top a stark contrast to the emerald gown she'd worn at Vanessa's wedding. The memory of that night, the photo of her father, the threatening text, burned in her chest, driving her deeper into the hunt for truth. Maya, 32, was a force, her rich brown skin glowing under the office's soft lights, her posture radiating resolve. 5 years ago, Vanessa had stolen her family, framing her father, David Jackson, for fraud and poisoning him to death. Now, Maya was fighting back, her barista job at Soul Brew a cover for her late-night hacking. Ethan, the tech mogul who'd brought her into Vanessa's orbit, was both an ally and a question mark. His charm and green eyes stirred something in her, but his past with Vanessa, and the secrets he might be hiding, kept her guard up. Ethan leaned over her shoulder, his cedar cologne mixing with the office's sterile air. His dark hair fell slightly into his eyes as he pointed to a line in an email. "This transfer," he said, his voice low. "It's linked to a shell company Vanessa used 5 years ago. You think it's tied to your dad?" Maya's fingers paused on the keyboard, her heart racing. "I know it is. She was moving money through fake deals, pinning it on him. This proves she's still profiting." She clicked to another email, her voice hardening. "And this one mentions a slow solution for David. She poisoned him, Ethan." His jaw tightened, a storm in his green eyes. "She's a monster." He straightened, running a hand through his hair. "I should have seen it. Back when we were together, she was always calculating. But murder?" Maya's gaze flicked to him, sharp and searching. "You loved her once. How much did you know?" Ethan flinched, his face tightening. "Not this. I knew she was ruthless in business, but I never thought—" He trailed off, his voice heavy. "I was blind, Maya. She left me because I wasn't old money enough for her. I didn't see the rest." Her chest ached at his honesty, but doubt lingered. She turned back to the screen, her voice cool. "Then help me prove it, if you're really on my side." He nodded, pulling a chair beside her. "I'm in, whatever it takes." They worked late, the office quiet except for the hum of the city outside. Maya's tech skills, honed in the shadows of Atlanta's underbelly, traced Vanessa's transactions to a contact in Savannah, a former employee who might hold the key to a coded recording Malik had found. The recording, Vanessa's voice admitting to David's murder was locked behind encryption, and they needed the key to unlock it. Ethan suggested a trip to Savannah, his voice steady but his eyes searching hers. "You trust me to go with you?" Maya's lips pressed tight, her heart a tug of war. "I'm trying," she said, her voice soft but firm. "Don't make me regret it." His hand brushed hers, a fleeting warmth that sent a jolt through her. "I won't," he said, his voice low, almost a vow. The air crackled, their closeness stirring a heat she tried to ignore. She pulled her hand back, focusing on the screen, but the memory of his touch lingered. That evening, Maya met Malik at a diner in Vine City, its neon sign buzzing, the smell of fried chicken and waffles thick in the air. Malik, her childhood friend, slid into the booth, his locks tied back, his brown eyes serious. He wore a worn denim jacket, his reporter's notebook tucked in his pocket. "You're in deep, Maya," he said, sliding a USB across the table. "That recording's the real deal, but the encryption's military grade. You need the key, and it's with a guy named Carter in Savannah, ex-accountant for Vanessa. He's scared, hiding out." Maya pocketed the USB, her fingers trembling. "Thanks, Malik. You didn't have to do this." He leaned forward, his voice low. "Yeah, I did. Your family. But Ethan Caldwell? He's got baggage, Maya. You sure he's not playing you?" She sighed, her gaze drifting to a jukebox glowing in the corner. "I don't know. He's helping, but he's holding something back. I can feel it." Malik's hand covered hers, warm and steady. "Just watch your back. Vanessa's not done, and guys like Ethan don't stick around for girls like us." His words stung, echoing her fears. She pulled her hand back, forcing a smile. "I'm not looking for forever, Malik. Just justice." He nodded, but his eyes held a quiet ache, a love he'd never spoken. Maya felt it, but her heart was tangled elsewhere, with Ethan, with the fight, with the ghost of her father. Back at Ethan's office the next day, they planned the Savannah trip, the tension between them palpable. Maya wore a simple dress, her curves soft under the cotton, and Ethan's gaze lingered a beat too long. "You look different," he said, his voice catching. She raised an eyebrow, teasing. "What, no apron? Don't get used to it, suit guy." He laughed, but the air shifted, charged with something unspoken. As they packed files, a summer storm rolled in, thunder rumbling outside. The power flickered, trapping them in the office, rain lashing the windows. Ethan grabbed a flashlight, his shirt clinging to his frame as he checked the fuse box. Maya followed, her pulse racing as the storm's roar matched her nerves. "Looks like we're stuck," he said, turning to her, his face half lit by the flashlight. His shirt was damp, outlining his chest, and Maya's breath caught. She stepped closer, the air thick with rain and cedar. "Guess we make the best of it," she said, her voice low. Her fingers brushed his arm, a spark igniting. Ethan's eyes darkened, and he closed the distance, his hand cupping her cheek. Their lips met, a slow, searing kiss that tasted of rain and longing. Maya's hands found his chest, his heartbeat pounding under her palms. The world narrowed to his warmth, his breath, the pull of something deeper than she'd planned. But fear surged, and she pulled back, her voice shaky. "I want this, Ethan, but I need trust. No secrets." He nodded, his eyes raw. "I'll give you that, Maya. I swear." The lights flickered back on, breaking the moment. Maya stepped away, her cheeks warm, her mind a storm. She wanted him. God, she did. But Vanessa's threat loomed, and Ethan's past was a shadow she couldn't ignore. The next morning, they drove to Savannah, the coastal air heavy with salt and promise. Carter, the ex-accountant, lived in a rundown motel, his face pale as he handed over a flash drive with the decryption key. "Vanessa's got eyes everywhere," he whispered, glancing at the door. "Get out of here." Maya clutched the drive, her heart racing. Back in the car, Ethan's hand rested on hers, his voice steady. "We've got her, Maya. This is it." But doubt gnawed at her. She opened her laptop, pulling up an email she'd found last night, one Ethan hadn't mentioned. It was from Vanessa, years ago, hinting at a deal tied to Ethan's late brother, who died in a car crash. Maya's voice was cold as she turned to him. "What's this? You knew Vanessa was into shady deals back then. Why didn't you tell me?" Ethan's face paled, his grip tightening on the wheel. "I didn't know it was connected to your dad. My brother, he worked with her on a project. I thought his crash was an accident. I was wrong." Maya's chest tightened, anger and hurt colliding. "You should have told me, Ethan. I'm not your pawn." "I'm not using you," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm in this, Maya, for you." She looked away, the savanna marshes blurring outside the window. The decryption key was a win, but Ethan's omission felt like a betrayal. She needed him, but trust was a tightrope, and she was slipping. Back in Atlanta, Maya met Grace, her aunt, at a jazz club in Old Fourth Ward. The Blue Note was a haven, its walls lined with vinyls, the air thick with saxophone notes. Grace, a retired jazz singer with silver-streaked braids, hugged her tight. "You look tired, baby," she said, her voice warm. "What's weighing you?" Maya sipped a whiskey, her eyes distant. "Everything. Vanessa, Ethan, this fight. I don't know who to trust." Grace's hand squeezed hers. "You're a Jackson, Maya. Your daddy believed in you, and so do I. Trust your heart, but keep your eyes open." Maya nodded, tears stinging. She thought of her father's chessboard, his voice. "Plan 3 moves ahead, Maya." She was close, so close. But Ethan's secrets and Vanessa's threats were closing in. That night, in her Vine City apartment, Maya sat at her desk, the decryption key plugged into her laptop. The recording loaded, Vanessa's voice chilling. "David's out of the way. The company's mine." Maya's tears fell, her father's face vivid in her mind. She texted Malik, "Got the recording. It's her. We need to move fast." His reply was urgent. "Vanessa's on to you. She's got people watching. Be careful." Maya stood, pacing, her reflection faint in the window. Atlanta's lights glowed, a city of hope and danger. She whispered to herself, her voice steel. "I'm not stopping, Dad." Tomorrow, she'd confront Ethan, demand the full truth, and plan the final blow against Vanessa. The fight was hers, but her heart was on the line, and the stakes had never been higher. The Atlanta night pulsed with a restless energy, its streets alive with the glow of neon signs and the distant thrum of traffic. In Old Fourth Ward, the air carried the scent of fried plantains from a nearby food truck, mingling with the faint hum of a jazz riff drifting from a corner bar. Maya Jackson sprinted down a shadowed alley, her sneakers pounding the cracked pavement, her breath ragged. Her heart slammed against her ribs as she glanced over her shoulder. 2 figures, broad and hooded, were closing in, their footsteps heavy. Vanessa Reed's threat had teeth, and Maya had pushed too far, hacking deeper into her offshore accounts. Now, someone wanted her silenced. Maya's coiled hair bounced loose from its bun, her dark brown skin slick with sweat. At 32, she was a fighter, her hazel eyes blazing with defiance, but fear clawed at her. She'd survived 5 years in Atlanta's shadows, scraping by as a barista while plotting to take down Vanessa, the woman who'd poisoned her father, David Jackson, and stolen his real estate empire. But tonight, the stakes felt higher than ever. Her hand gripped the USB drive in her pocket, loaded with Vanessa's decrypted confession, a recording that could bury her. She couldn't lose it, not when she was so close. The alley twisted, and Maya ducked behind a dumpster, pressing herself against the cool brick wall. The men's voices echoed, low and urgent. "She's here somewhere," one growled. "Boss said no loose ends." Maya's stomach churned. Vanessa's reach was long, her desperation deadly. She held her breath, her pulse thundering, until their footsteps faded. Then she bolted, weaving through back streets until she reached the Blue Note, a jazz club where her Aunt Grace once sang. The neon sign flickered, a beacon in the dark, and Maya slipped inside, the warm hum of a saxophone wrapping around her like a shield. The club was dimly lit, its walls lined with black and white photos of jazz legends, the air thick with whiskey and nostalgia. A small crowd swayed to the music, oblivious to Maya's trembling hands as she sank into a corner booth. She pulled out her phone, texting Malik Jones. "Blue Note, need you now. Trouble." Her fingers shook, the memory of the chase replaying. Vanessa's text, the men in the alley, the weight of her father's fight. She thought of Ethan Caldwell, his green eyes, his kiss in the rain, and her heart twisted. He'd sworn to be all in, but his secrets, emails tied to his brother's death, had cracked her trust. Was he her ally, or another trap? Malik arrived minutes later, his locks tucked under a cap, his brown eyes scanning the room. He slid into the booth, his voice low. "Maya, what the hell happened? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Worse," she whispered, her voice shaky. She slid the USB across the table. "Vanessa's on to me. I got too close, hacked her accounts, found the money trail. 2 guys chased me tonight. She wants this drive gone." Malik's jaw tightened, pocketing the USB. "You're playing with fire, Maya. I told you to slow down." "I can't," she snapped, her eyes blazing. "She killed my dad, Malik. She's living her dream life while I'm scraping by. I'm ending this." Her voice cracked, tears spilling over. She swiped them away, furious at her weakness. "I saw her at the wedding, all smiles, like she didn't ruin us. I can't let her win." Malik's hand covered hers, steady and warm. "You're not alone, Maya. I've got your back. But Ethan, how much does he know? Those guys could be his people." Her chest tightened, Malik's words echoing her fears. "I don't know," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "He's helping, but he kept stuff from me, emails about his brother, deals with Vanessa. I want to trust him, but—" Malik leaned closer, his voice soft. "You don't need him, Maya. You're enough. Always have been." His thumb brushed her knuckles, a quiet confession in his touch. She felt the weight of his feelings, unspoken but clear, and guilt stirred. Malik was her rock, but her heart was tangled with Ethan, despite the cracks. She pulled her hand back, forcing a smile. "Thanks, Jay. Keep that drive safe. I'm meeting Ethan tomorrow. I'll get answers." Malik nodded, his eyes lingering. "Be careful, Maya. You're all I've got left." Back at her Vine City apartment, Maya locked the door, her hands trembling as she sank onto the couch. The walls, covered with poems and photos of her parents, felt like a shrine to her fight. She opened a picture of her father on her phone, his chessboard smile a beacon. "I'm close, Dad," she whispered, tears falling. I won't let her win. But the chase in the alley, Vanessa's threat, Ethan's secrets, they pressed against her, heavy as the Atlanta heat. The next morning, Maya arrived at Ethan's office in Midtown, her nerves raw. The space was all sharp lines, glass walls, modern art, a view of the city that screamed power. Ethan stood by his desk, his dark hair mussed, his green eyes softening as he saw her. "You're early," he said, his voice warm. "Everything okay?" "No," she said, her tone sharp. She dropped her bag, crossing her arms. "We need to talk, Ethan. Now." He frowned, setting down his coffee. "What's going on?" She pulled out her phone, showing him the email about his brother's deal with Vanessa. "You kept this from me. It's tied to her, to my dad's murder. Why didn't you tell me?" Ethan's face paled, his hands clenching. "I didn't know it was connected, Maya. My brother, Jake, he died in a crash 3 years ago. Vanessa was his business partner on a project. I thought it was an accident, but after you showed me her emails, I started wondering." He trailed off, his voice breaking. "I should have told you. I was scared it'd pull you away." Maya's anger flared, her voice rising. "Scared? I'm the one running from Vanessa's goons. Last night, 2 guys chased me, Ethan. They wanted the evidence I've got on her. And you're still holding back?" His eyes widened, shock giving way to fury. "Chased you? Maya, why didn't you call me?" He stepped closer, his hands reaching for her, but she stepped back, her heart pounding. "Because I don't know if I can trust you," she shouted, tears spilling over. "You were with her, Ethan. You loved her. How do I know you're not playing me?" He froze, hurt flashing in his eyes. "I'm not her, Maya. I'm here, fighting for you. I messed up, but I'm not letting you go through this alone." Her chest heaved, his words cutting through her defenses. She wanted to believe him, to lean into his warmth, but fear held her back. "Then prove it," she said, her voice trembling. "No more secrets, or I'm done." He nodded, his jaw tight. "No more secrets. I swear." The air was thick, their gazes locked, a storm of pain and hope between them. Maya's phone buzzed, breaking the tension. A text from Grace. "I'm in Atlanta, baby. Blue Note tonight. Bring your heart." She exhaled, pocketing the phone. Grace's arrival was a lifeline, but the fight with Ethan had left her raw. That afternoon, Maya worked at Soul Brew, her hands moving on autopilot as she poured lattes. The shop's murals, its jazz records, grounded her, but her mind was a mess. Vanessa's goons, Ethan's secrets, the USB drive, they swirled like a storm. A regular Miss Ruby, a grandmother with a sharp tongue, noticed her distraction. "You got that look, Maya," she said, sipping her tea. "Like you're carrying the world." Maya forced a smile, wiping the counter. "Just a long week, Miss Ruby." "Mm-hmm," Ruby said, her eyes knowing. "You're a Jackson. Whatever's coming, you'll handle it. But don't forget to breathe, baby." Maya nodded, her throat tight. Ruby's words echoed her father's, plan 3 moves ahead, but don't lose yourself. She needed to focus, to stay sharp. That evening, Maya met Grace at the Blue Note, the jazz club, a warm haven in the city's chaos. Grace, her silver braids glowing under the lights, pulled her into a hug, her voice rich. "You're fighting hard, baby," she said, leading her to a table. "But you're carrying too much. Tell me." Maya sipped a whiskey, the burn grounding her. "Vanessa's closing in, Grace. I've got her confession, but she sent people after me last night. And Ethan, he's helping, but he kept stuff from me. I don't know who to trust." Grace's eyes softened, her hand squeezing Maya's. "Your daddy trusted too easy, and it cost him. You're smarter, Maya, but love, real love, is a risk. Ethan's showing up. Question is, can you let him in?" Maya's tears fell, her voice breaking. "I'm scared, Grace. What if he's like her?" "Then you'll walk away," Grace said, her voice firm. "But you're a Jackson. You don't run from the truth." The band struck up a slow tune, and Grace pulled Maya to the stage, handing her the mic. "Sing with me, baby," she said. They sang Summertime, their voices weaving, the crowd swaying. Maya's tears flowed, the song a prayer for her father, her mother, her fight. The saxophone wailed, the club's dim lights blurring, and for a moment she felt whole, her pain and strength one. The crowd clapped, and Maya hugged Grace, her heart full. "I'm not giving up," she whispered. "For Dad." Grace smiled, her eyes proud. "That's my girl." Back at her apartment, Maya sat at her desk, the USB drive beside her laptop. She played the recording again, Vanessa's voice chilling. "David's out of the way. The company's mine." Her tears fell, but her resolve hardened. She texted Malik. "Grace is here. We're planning the gala. Keep the drive safe." His reply was instant. "Got you. Vanessa's moving money again. She's desperate." Maya stood, pacing, her reflection fierce in the window. Atlanta's skyline glowed, a city of battles and dreams. She whispered to herself, her voice steel. "You're going down, Vanessa." Tomorrow she'd face Ethan, demand the full truth, and prepare for the gala. The fight was hers, but Ethan's kiss, his promise, lingered, and the war for her heart was as fierce as the one for justice. The Grand Peachtree Hotel glowed under Atlanta's velvet night, its glass facade reflecting the city's restless pulse. Inside, the ballroom was a spectacle of wealth. Chandeliers dripped with crystal, white roses spilled from gilded vases, and the air buzzed with the clink of champagne flutes and the murmurs of Georgia's elite. Vanessa Reed's gala was a masterclass in power, a stage for her to cement her reign over Atlanta's high society. But for Maya Jackson, it was a battlefield, the culmination of 5 years of pain, planning, and fire. Tonight she'd bring Vanessa down, and the truth would burn brighter than any chandelier. Maya stood at the edge of the crowd, her black gown hugging her curves like armor, its sleek fabric catching the light. Her coiled hair was swept into an elegant updo, her dark brown skin glowing, her hazel eyes sharp with resolve. At 32, she was a force, her presence commanding despite the weight of her past. Vanessa's betrayal, her father David Jackson's murder, her mother's death from grief. The USB drive in her clutch held Vanessa's confession, a recording unlocked by the decryption key from Savannah, and Maya was ready to wield it like a blade. But her heart was a storm, torn between her fight for justice and her fraying trust in Ethan Caldwell, the man who'd stood by her, kissed her, and hidden secrets that cut deep. Ethan was nearby, his tailored tuxedo sharp, his green eyes scanning the room. His dark hair was neat, but the tension in his jaw betrayed his nerves. He'd promised to be all in, but Maya's discovery of his withheld email, tying Vanessa to his brother's death, had cracked their bond. She wanted to believe his regret, his vow to fight for her, but doubt lingered, a shadow she couldn't shake. As their eyes met, he gave a subtle nod, a silent question. "You ready?" Maya's lips curved, her voice low. "Let's end this, Caldwell." The crowd parted as Vanessa took the stage, her silver gown shimmering, her blonde hair a perfect crown. Her smile was polished, but her green eyes flickered with unease, sensing the storm brewing. "Tonight," she said, her voice smooth, "we celebrate Atlanta's future, vision, power, unity." The applause was thunderous, but Maya's gaze locked onto her, unyielding. Vanessa's eyes found hers, a flash of recognition sparking panic. She knew Maya was no ordinary guest, not after the wedding in Savannah, not after the chase in Old Fourth Ward. Maya clutched her clutch, her fingers brushing the USB drive. She'd enlisted Marcus, her tech-savvy friend from Solbrew, to handle the AV system. He stood by the booth, his nod confirming the plan. During Vanessa's speech, he'd project the evidence. emails, bank records, and the recording of Vanessa admitting to David's murder. Maya's heart pounded, her breath shallow. This was for her father, for the chess games in their Harlem brownstone, for his belief that she could change the world. As Vanessa raised her glass, Maya stepped forward, her heels clicking on the marble. The crowd hushed, faces turning as she climbed the stage, snatching a microphone from a stunned waiter. Ethan followed, his presence a quiet strength, his hand brushing hers. Vanessa's smile froze, her champagne flute trembling. "What is this?" she hissed, her voice low. Maya's voice rang out, clear and fierce. "I'm Maya Jackson, daughter of David Jackson. 5 years ago, Vanessa Reed framed my father for fraud, stole his company, and poisoned him to death. She thought she'd buried the truth, but tonight it speaks." The crowd gasped, phones rising to record. Maya nodded to Marcus, and the screen behind her flickered, an email appearing. Vanessa to a chemist, ordering a slow, untraceable poison. Another slide showed bank transfers, millions funneled through shell companies. Then the recording played, Vanessa's voice chilling. "David's out of the way. The company's mine." The ballroom erupted, murmurs swelling to a roar. Vanessa's face drained of color, her voice shrill. "This is a lie! She's a fraud! A nobody trying to ruin me!" She lunged for the microphone, but Ethan stepped between them, his eyes like steel. "Enough, Vanessa," he said, his tone final. "It's over." Vanessa's eyes darted, wild with panic. "You're nothing, Maya. A barista. A nobody from Vine City." Her words dripped venom, but Maya stood taller, her voice unwavering. "I'm the truth you can't bury," she said, her gaze piercing. "You took my father, my home, my life. But you don't get to take my voice." The crowd was a sea of shocked faces, cameras flashing, whispers spreading like wildfire. Police officers entered, led by a prosecutor Maya had contacted through Malik. Vanessa screamed, "You'll pay for this!" as handcuffs clicked around her wrists. Owen Tate, her husband, stepped forward, his face pale. "I trusted you, Vanessa," he said, his voice breaking. He turned to Maya, his eyes heavy. "I found an email, a deal she hid from me. I gave it to your friend, Malik. I'm sorry." Maya's breath caught. Owen's betrayal of Vanessa a shock. The crowd buzzed, the scandal unfolding like a live drama. Vanessa's glare burned into Maya as she was led away, a promise of vengeance in her eyes. Maya's knees trembled, her tears falling as the weight of her father's memory crashed over her. She'd done it. Justice for David, for her mother, for the life stolen. But the emptiness lingered, her heart raw. Ethan pulled her close, his voice soft. "You were incredible, Maya. It's over." She shook her head, her voice trembling. "Not yet." Her eyes searched his, a question unspoken. Vanessa was gone, but Ethan's secrets, their fractured trust, loomed large. Could she let him in, or was he another risk? The gala dissolved into chaos, guests whispering, phones capturing the fallout. Maya stepped off the stage, Ethan at her side, but a new figure approached. Malik, his locks loose, his brown eyes warm with pride. "You did it, Maya," he said, pulling her into a hug. "Your dad's smiling right now." She clung to him, tears spilling. "Thanks, Jay. Couldn't have done it without you." Malik's gaze flicked to Ethan, a flicker of tension. "You good with him?" he asked, his voice low. Maya glanced at Ethan, her heart a tug of war. "I'm figuring it out," she said, her voice soft. Malik nodded, stepping back. "I've got news, by the way. Met someone, a editor at the Chronicle. I'm taking her to dinner tomorrow." His smile was shy, a weight lifting from Maya's shoulders. The unspoken love between them was settling, a friendship reaffirmed. "About time," Maya teased, nudging him. "Don't mess it up." As Malik left, Ethan took her hand, his touch grounding. "We need to talk," he said, his voice raw. They slipped into a private lounge off the ballroom, the city's hum muted behind heavy doors. Maya faced him, her heart pounding. "Why didn't you tell me about Owen's email?" she asked, her voice steady but pained. "You knew he was helping us, and you kept it quiet." Ethan's face tightened, his hands clenching. "I wanted to protect you, Maya. Owen came to me last week, said he found something incriminating. I didn't tell you because I wasn't sure he'd follow through. Vanessa's got him wrapped around her finger. I couldn't risk you getting hurt." Maya's anger flared, her voice rising. "Protect me? By lying? I'm not some damsel, Ethan. I've been fighting alone for years. I needed you to be honest." He stepped closer, his eyes raw. "I know, and I messed up. But I'm here, Maya. I turned down a $10 million deal yesterday, one tied to Vanessa's investors because I chose you. I love you, and I'm not letting you go." Her breath caught, his words a tidal wave. Love. The word hung between them, heavy with promise and fear. She searched his eyes, seeing not the tech mogul but a man, vulnerable, fighting for her. Her tears fell, her voice trembling. "You can't just say that and expect me to forget everything." "I'm not," he said, his hand cupping her cheek. "I'll prove it. Every day, if you let me." His thumb brushed her tears, his touch a quiet vow. The air crackled, their breaths mingling, and Maya felt her walls crumble. She leaned into him, their lips meeting in a soft, searing kiss, a promise of healing, of hope. The door creaked, and Grace stepped in, her silver braids glowing, her smile warm. "You all done fighting?" she teased, her voice rich. "Come on, baby. Let's get you home." Maya laughed through her tears, pulling back from Ethan. "We're getting there, Aunt Grace." Outside, Atlanta's skyline stretched before them, a city of battles won and dreams reborn. Maya stood on Peachtree Street, Ethan's hand in hers, Grace at her side. The gala's chaos faded, but the fight wasn't over. Vanessa's empire was crumbling, but her allies lingered, and Maya's heart was still on the line. She looked at Ethan, his green eyes steady, and whispered, "We're not done yet." He squeezed her hand, his voice soft. "Not by a long shot, Jackson. Sir." The city hummed, its lights a challenge. Maya felt her father's presence, his chessboard wisdom guiding her, planned 3 moves ahead. She'd torn down Vanessa, but the future, her love, her legacy, was a new game, and she was ready to play. The Atlanta skyline glowed under a late summer sunset, its towers bathed in hues of amber and violet, the city's heartbeat echoing through the streets. In Vine City, Maya Jackson's small apartment was alive with the aroma of gumbo simmering on the stove, the rich scent of shrimp, okra, and spices mingling with the soulful croon of Nina Simone from a Bluetooth speaker. Maya stood at the counter, her coiled hair loose around her shoulders, her dark brown skin catching the soft light of a flickering candle. Her hazel eyes were soft, a rare peace settling over her after weeks of battle. The gala at the Grand Peachtree had changed everything. Vanessa Reed was in custody, her empire crumbling, and Maya had reclaimed her father's truth. But Ethan Caldwell, the man who'd fought beside her, remained a question. His love a risk she was only beginning to embrace. At 32, Maya was a phoenix, risen from the ashes of Vanessa's betrayal. 5 years ago, Vanessa had poisoned her father, David Jackson, framed him for fraud, and shattered their family's real estate legacy. Maya's mother had died of grief, leaving her to survive in Atlanta's shadows as a barista at Soul Brew. Now, with Vanessa exposed, Maya stood taller, her fight for justice won. But her heart was another battlefield, torn between fear and the pull of Ethan's green eyes, his touch, his vow to be her home. The apartment was cozy, its walls covered with poems and faded photos of her parents, a testament to her roots. Maya stirred the gumbo, her thoughts drifting to Ethan. Their kiss at the gala, his confession of love, had shaken her, but trust was a slow bloom, and she needed time. A knock at the door broke her reverie, and her pulse quickened. Malik had promised to drop off legal updates, but when she opened the door, Ethan stood there, his tailored jacket swapped for a simple gray sweater, his arms full of grocery bags. Behind him was Grace, her aunt, her silver braids gleaming, a bottle of bourbon in hand. "Hope we're not crashing dinner," Ethan said, his smile warm but hesitant. "Brought dessert. Peach cobbler from Miss Ruby's bakery." Grace nudged him, her voice rich. "And I brought the good stuff. You cooking gumbo, baby? Better not burn it." Maya laughed, the tension in her chest easing. "Get in here, both of you. And Ethan, you're on dish duty." They stepped inside, the apartment filling with their warmth. Maya caught Ethan's glance, his green eyes soft, and her heart skipped. She'd pushed him away after his secrets, emails tying Vanessa to his brother's death. But his choice to stand by her at the gala, to turn down $1 million deal, had shifted something. He was here, in her world, choosing her. As they set the table, Grace pulled Maya aside, her eyes knowing. "He's trying, baby," she whispered. "You gonna let him in?" Maya sighed, glancing at Ethan as he opened the cobbler, his laugh easy as he teased Grace about her bourbon. "I'm scared, Grace. What if I fall and he's not there?" Grace's hand squeezed hers. "Then you get up, like always. But look at him, Maya. He's showing up." Dinner was a burst of laughter and flavor, the gumbo rich, the bourbon smooth. Ethan told a story about burning toast that morning, his self-deprecating grin making Maya smile. Grace raised her glass, her voice warm. "To family, blood and chosen. We Jacksons don't quit, and neither do you, Ethan." He clinked her glass, his eyes on Maya. "To family," he said, his voice soft, a promise in his gaze. Maya's throat tightened, the word family stirring memories of her parents' Sunday dinners, her father's chess lessons, her mother's lullabies. She wanted this. Ethan, Grace, a future, but fear lingered, a whisper of doubt. After dinner, Grace excused herself to call a friend, leaving Maya and Ethan alone. He helped clear plates, his shoulder brushing hers, the air charged. "You're quiet," he said, stacking dishes in the sink. "What's on your mind?" She leaned against the counter, her arms crossed. "You. Us. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, Ethan. You're a Caldwell, penthouse power, all of it. I'm just... Don't," he interrupted, stepping close. His hand cupped her cheek, his touch warm. "You're not just anything, Maya. You're the woman who took down Vanessa Reed, who brought justice to your dad. You're the one I can't stop thinking about." His voice was low, raw, his green eyes searching hers, her breath hitched, his thumb tracing her jaw. The candlelight flickered, casting shadows on the walls, and Maya felt her walls crumble. "You hurt me," she whispered, tears stinging. "Keeping secrets, making me doubt you." "I know," he said, his voice breaking. "I was scared. Scared of losing you, of not being enough. I'm sorry, Maya. Let me make it right." His forehead rested against hers, their breaths mingling, the air thick with cedar and spice. She closed her eyes, his warmth pulling her in. "Prove it, Caldwell," she murmured, her voice trembling but fierce. "Every damn day." He smiled, slow and sure, and kissed her, soft at first, then deepening, a hunger that set her skin alight. Her hands found his chest, his heartbeat steady under her palms, and she melted into him, the world fading to just them. The kiss was a vow, a healing, their pain and hope entwined. When they parted, Maya's cheeks were warm, her voice teasing, "You're not bad at that." He laughed, pulling her close. "Good. I've got plenty of practice planned." Grace's footsteps broke the moment, her chuckle warm. "Y'all better behave," she said, grabbing her coat. "I'm heading out. Maya, call me tomorrow." As Grace left, Maya and Ethan sat on the couch, the candle's glow softening the room. His arm draped around her, her head resting on his shoulder. "This is us," she whispered, her voice soft with wonder. "No more secrets." "No more secrets," he echoed, kissing her forehead. The city outside hummed, a quiet promise of tomorrow. Weeks later, Ethan invited Maya to the Blue Note, the jazz club where she'd sung with Grace. The neon sign glowed, the air thick with saxophone notes and whiskey. Maya wore a deep red dress, its fabric clinging to her curves, and Ethan's eyes darkened as he saw her. "You're killing me, Jackson," he murmured, taking her hand. She smirked, her voice teasing. "Try to keep up, suit guy." The club was packed, fairy lights twinkling above the tables. Ethan led her to a reserved spot near the stage, his hand warm on her lower back. "I've got a surprise," he said, his smile sly. The band struck up a slow tune, and he stood, taking the microphone. Maya's breath caught, her heart racing. "Atlanta," Ethan said, his voice steady. "I'm not a speech guy, but tonight's different. There's a woman here who changed everything. Maya Jackson, you're my home, my fight, my heart." He stepped off the stage, dropping to one knee, a velvet box in his hand. The crowd gasped, and Maya's tears fell as he opened it, revealing a diamond ring that caught the light. "I love you, Maya. Marry me. Let's build a life, a family, together." The club held its breath, the saxophone pausing. Maya's hand covered her mouth, her voice trembling. "You drive me crazy, Ethan Caldwell, but I love you too. Yes." Her words were a laugh, a sob, a vow. The crowd erupted, clapping as Ethan slid the ring onto her finger, pulling her into a kiss that tasted of joy and forever. The band played on, the music swelling, and Maya felt her father's presence, his pride a quiet warmth. Months later, Maya stood in the boardroom of Jackson Strategies, a consulting firm she'd launched to empower black businesses in Vine City. Her navy suit was sharp, her hair in sleek braids, her voice confident as she pitched to investors. The firm honored her father's vision, and Atlanta's press hailed her as a rising star. Ethan, now leading Caldwell Tech toward sustainable projects, stood by her, his support unwavering. Their wedding was a dream, held in Piedmont Park under a canopy of oaks, the Atlanta skyline a backdrop. Maya walked down the aisle in a flowing gown, her eyes locked on Ethan, his tuxedo sharp, his smile radiant. Grace sang at last, her voice a balm, and Malik, now dating his editor, grinned from the crowd. Maya and Ethan vowed to love fiercely, to trust deeply, their kiss sealing a promise under the Georgia sun. A year later, Maya felt a flutter, her hand resting on her belly. A doctor's visit confirmed it. She was pregnant with a girl, to be named Ella, after Ella Fitzgerald. Ethan laughed, pulling her into a hug, his eyes shining. "We're gonna be parents," he said, his voice thick. "You ready?" She smiled, tears falling. "With you?" "Always." Their life bloomed. Ethan brought coffee to bed. Maya cooked gumbo for late-night talks. At a community event in Vine City, surrounded by friends, they shared their joy. Maya's hand on her belly, Ethan's arm around her. "We built this," she said, her voice soft. "A legacy." He kissed her temple, his smile warm. The best one yet. As they stood on their rooftop, Atlanta's lights sparkling below, Maya felt whole. Her father's chessboard wisdom, her mother's lullabies, Grace's jazz, they lived in her, in Ella, in the love she'd fought for. The city hummed, a song of battles won and dreams reborn, and Maya knew she was home. Wow, what a journey for Maya and Ethan. If their love story moved you, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. Favorite moment? Want more romance or revenge? Let's keep the stories coming.